Hello everybody, welcome back to Law Hero. My name is Jen and I make videos about the law. Today I'm actually not making a video about the law. Today I'm making a video about something that's associated with being a lawyer, which is being stressed or having anxiety. Now, I don't really like making these videos, but I have to say, out of all the topics I interact with people on Instagram especially, and also TikTok for a fair amount on the DMs, is mental health. And I think it's because I'm quite open about the topic. I don't shy away from it like some people do. Maybe it's because I'm a millennial, or maybe it's because I've been through it myself. I've studied it back to front. I would consider myself a subject expert when it comes to anxiety in particular, not depression. Anxiety is the one I know a lot about. I came through it myself. And now I see myself as kind of a helper or a facilitator to those who are going through it themselves. This video today is a real assistance for somebody, and I want it to be a resource that people can come back to and get some insight, because I have cracked this myself. It doesn't mean I'm always out of the woods. To be human is to be anxious, because we are the only mammal that are able to abstract ourselves into a future that has not yet happened. And also we're the only mammal that can comprehend our own mortality. That means that, of course, a certain amount of anxiety comes with being a human. So we're never going to get rid of it completely, but we can learn, like that lovely phrase, to ride the waves rather than try and fight them. The waves will always be there. Sometimes the water will be calm, sometimes the water will be choppy, but what's most important is that we go with the flow. And all of that may seem very rhetorical and, graphic, but what I'm going to do today is talk about cause, effect, and solution. A very kind of logical, everyday approach to this. Obviously, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't claim to be. I don't have a medical degree. So this is like, I don't know what's the equivalent of bro science, but it's like sister science. But I'm not even going to talk about science. Like, for me, the way through all of this is through discussion, through destigmatization, education. YouTube is a great place for that. How I got through it was through science, therapy, and that basically means, basically the medical side and the emotional side, and that's what a psychiatrist do. They blend the two. And yeah, I definitely think that's the way out. And talking also helps, like sharing it with other people, because other people have more than likely been through it. They say like 1 in 4 people will have suffered a mental health incident, but I think that's nonsense. I think 4 in 4 people have suffered a mental health incident and continue to do so all the time. As I said, it's part of being human. So jibber jabber, I'm going to cut to the chase and let's get on with it. When we talk about the cause of anxiety, usually we'll say, if you've never experienced it before, there will be some sort of a trigger. For me, it was mounting stress. So stress can cause anxiety, and the causes of it depend on your circumstances. So for example, it may have been grief, it may have been stress, it may have been some sort of a relationship breakdown. Something happens, it can be within or outside of your control, that throws you off kilter, your usual routine, what you're used to. And what it does is, what it actually triggers is a sense of ending, and that, everything that you've come to love is going to end or won't work out the way you've dreamed about it. Now, there's lots of different components to how it actually happens, and we're not going to get too deep into it, but the cause of it is usually some kind of upset. That being said, these things also sometimes happen out of the blue, but usually there would have been some build-up, some cacophony of either stress or mounting pressure, perceived pressure, that are different to the ones you're used to. So people talk about overwhelm, and when they talk about overwhelm, it means you were pushed beyond what you were used to. Everybody has different thresholds of what they can cope with, but usually anxiety, the trigger point for it is going over and above what you're used to dealing with. Now, as I said, I'm not a psychiatrist, but we're hardwired to self-preserve, protect ourselves because of the good of the species. That's how we are the apex predator. That's how we came to the top of the food chain. And basically, if we perceive something as a threat to our safety, to our well-being, psychological well-being, we're on the alert. And this is called the fight or flight. The decision whether to fight or flight is caused by the amygdala, and it is something we can learn how to train over time through therapy, through some behavioral interventions. What's interesting as well around cause is that your lifestyle can also really cause you anxiety. So for example, if you're taking in a lot of caffeine, if you're taking in a lot of sugar, your second brain is your gut, and your gut can also be out of whack hormonally, because the hormones that are released when you have that excess stress is like the cortisol, the adrenaline. All of these add to this feeling of dis-ease, and this is how the anxiety comes together. And then it can become either localized, as in you have like a panic attack, or it can become like trait anxiety, that you have this general sense of anxiety all the time, no matter where you are. And that's when it becomes like a disorder. Now let's talk about how to deal with those uncomfortable feelings when they crop up. Now I'm after finding a really good one from Pablo Callal, who is it's a cognitive behavior model called the DEPEND model. And how it works is that D stands for define, which is, so we'll say, for example, which is something that happened to me when I was suffering anxiety, was I would have a panic attack, for example, if I was going on the train to work. So it would just come upon me. Obviously there had been a lot building up to it, but I'm going to use the DEPEND model now to show you how I could have got through it had I known this model. So you define the situation in simple terms and you stick to the facts. So if I had been there, I would have said, okay, I'm having a panic attack on the train on the way to work. That would be how I define it. Emotions, what do you feel? So when I always think of emotions, I think of the motion, like what's going on inside my body. So my pulse has gone up. I feel kind of like pins and needles. I've got sweaty hands. I kind of feel irritable. Like I have this excess energy in me that I would like to get rid of. And that's the fight or flight. Perspective, what's your point of view? What are your thoughts, and what is the impact on your behaviors? So my point of view is that it's me. I'm feeling really overwhelmed by the situation I'm in. Logically, I know I can get through it, but right now all I want to do is panic. And the impact on my behavior is that I'm not just sitting enjoying this train ride like I would every other morning. I want to get off, but I don't even know what I'm going to do when I get off. Evidence, what proof do you have that your perspective is accurate? None at all. I'm just purely reacting to a sensation in my body that is uncomfortable. N is nice. What is the most constructive interpretation that you can make right now? The most constructive interpretation I could have made back then was that I'm human. I'm a woman in my 20s. I put a lot of pressure on myself to be perfect. I'm going in to work right now. I feel like I have a lot to get done. I have to please other people. I'm worried about I'm letting other people down. I'm worried about I'm not doing my sport. Have I called my family? Have I called my boyfriend? Have I looked after my dog? Have I done all the housework I should do? Maybe I'm just putting a little bit too much pressure on myself. Maybe I should be a little bit more human towards myself. And D is the last word in depend, do. Do you need to take any specific action? Maybe I could say no to a few things. Maybe I could not drink so much coffee in the morning and be so jacked up on this train. Maybe I could not rush to the train after falling out of bed. Maybe I could say to my boss, maybe I could work from home some of these days. Maybe I could do a few things proactively for my mental health, and maybe I could say no to a few things so I have some more time to think about what's most important to me rather than firefighting all the time. And even right now, when I'm saying that very logically and calmly, I actually do feel my heart rate drop. I feel a sense of calmness and a bit of more control. And that's exactly what the Depend model does. It puts you back in the driver's seat. In conclusion, anxiety is something that will always be there for you. What's most important is that you know how to handle it when it comes, and that you be empathetic towards yourself. You also have to call out when you're also being just a little bit weak. There's a difference between, you know, suffering in silence and being stoic, then actually you're just being a bit of a coward. And sometimes, and I don't have any issue with saying this because I've been through it myself, a little bit of shame goes a long way. Now, hear me out. I'm not trying to shame anybody for having mental health issues. What I'm trying to say is sometimes we forget to be grateful for what we have, and sometimes, and I can say this in my own issues, having anxiety was actually caused by myself being too wanting to please, and being a people pleaser is something you have to learn to deal with as an adult and get therapy for, because it comes from a childhood issue. So what I'm trying to say to you is you have to be strong as against yourself. You have to know thyself, like Socrates said. You have to know your weaknesses, and you have to know if your mental health incident is a genuine reflection of your weakness or is something that was completely outside of your control. And once you understand yourself better, then you'll know that it's just you being a little bit of a coward as against yourself. You're running away from your responsibility because you're being a bit lazy or you're frightened. You know, it's not a good thing. It's more of the anxiety is closing in your life. It's stopping you living your life. And being an overthinker certainly doesn't help that. So what I would say to people is, from my experience, it is important to be insightful and to know yourself well, but it's also important to give yourself a little bit of tough love when it's needed. If you always give in to yourself, then you're not really getting to the root of what's happening to you. You're always giving yourself a get out of jail clause, and that's not healthy long term, because human beings love shortcuts, and you have to realize that you're looking for a shortcut. So my question to you is the mental health issue a shortcut, or is it a genuine grievance? For me, it was 50-50. Sometimes I was looking for a shortcut and to get out of things and self-sabotage, which was me being weak. But other times I genuinely was under a lot of pressure and did need some space. Only you can answer that question. Maybe you need a therapist to assist you, but just maybe see it from the other side. On that note, I hope I brought you some comfort, because you are definitely going to be okay. It's just, can you manage yourself through the difficult time is the question. And I hope it wasn't too much tough love for me, but I would rather be honest than play up some kind of, you know, nicey nice. Because I would prefer if somebody was honest with me than, you know, sell me a lie. That's my 2 cents. I'll see you in the next one.